All right, let's look at putting some glazing into our window system now. So I want to make, this is where you make your own design decisions. We could put the glass right at the front face so that the terracotta panel and the glazing would be totally in the same plane with each other, giving the facade a very flat look. Or we can recess it very deep and give a very deep glass pocket so that we get this idea of seeing all this interior piece of aluminum extrusion. So I'm going to just pick something a little bit not quite as extreme, but I'm going to put the glazing here, but you're welcome to put this anywhere. And so really what we need to do is, and I'm sorry, I had my mouse on the wrong screen. It could be this is the front of the terracotta, the glass could be here, or this is the interior wall, so the glass could be very deep here. And like I said, I'm going to be somewhere midway here. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to add a little piece of a lip, so to speak. So I'm going to create, let's see here if we can just come up with a random. I'm going to come in 2 inches, and I'm going to make just a piece of aluminum. And I don't know how to use that tool very well. I'm going to just pull this back up again. Okay, so now I have just a little bit of a place where I can bite, and maybe I'll just pull this out a little bit further. Let's say I'll pull this out 1.5 inches just so it's a little more graphic when we put it back in. So now I can actually attach the glazing, you know, there'd be a silicone bonded piece of glazing to that little flange there. In reality, this could get all designed up as a piece of tubular, and this could be a fastened and clip. There could be a whole host of ways that the glazing is inserted into this pocket. But this just gives us a delineation for what we want to do. So with that set, I'm going to save that profile, and I'm going to load that into the project. And we don't want to put it in the main project. We want to put it back into the curtain wall project. We'll overwrite the existing version, and now we have that little extra pocket there. And so if we went to the, whoops. Let's try to get back to the window again. And let's look at it. Let's look at it from a 3D view to start with, right? So now we have this glass, this pocket that can accept the glass. And so let's go ahead and make a piece of glass extrusion. So I'm going to go to the exterior view again. And this wouldn't be exactly to the inside edges here, but I'm going to create an extrusion using a box tool. And we'll come in from the inside of that and go all the way down to the bottom here. And we want this to behave parametrically. And we want this material to be glass. So you can actually just type in glass, but I'll select it here. And it's going to extrude it 1 inch, or excuse me, 1 foot, but we really only want it to be 1/2 inch. And we need to see this from the side because we've got to see where it is a place. I'll do a Z zoom extents, and our glazing is in the wrong place. So we're just going to go ahead and move that. I'm just going to use a copy tool to move it to, because I'm going to pull it over, undo the constraints here. It just seems to be easier sometimes to move that way. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one. And we'll save that and load it into the project. And now we have our glass in there, and you can't really see it that well because we're not reflecting off of anything. But we've inserted our, if you can zoom in here, you can see we've inserted our glass into that pocket. And if that was tinted or something, that would have a much nicer effect. We could try quickly to do, let's see if we were to render this quickly. Hold on just a second, I'll bring my rendering over. All right, well, you're starting to get the idea of that. And by experimenting now, you could really pull that glazing front, and that would give you a very planar kind of look to the tile system. But that's where the aesthetics come in, and that part of what you're doing. So we now have a window system. The last thing I want to do here is maybe put that little bottom flange on. So let's go back to the window itself, and maybe the left side here. And you can see how that's held up there. So we need a little piece of an aluminum extrusion. So I'm going to go and create an extrusion. I won't concern myself too much with the dimensions here. So we could lock it to that surface. We can lock it to that surface. And we could even lock it to that surface. And we really need to look at that now from the front elevation to see where that extrusion is. It's very tiny, it's only 1 inch. So I'm going to pull this one now over until it reaches that surface right there. That's that outside edge of the window. And I'll pull this one over until it reaches there and lock it to there. And we'll save that and load it into the project. And I'll try to find the 3D view of that. There we go. And of course, I made it out of glass. So I've got to go back and correct that, because that was the last material probably. We'll just put it back to default because I really wasn't using any colors or textures at this point. Okay, and there we have our flange now attached to the front. It looks like I've lined it up to the wrong element there, because we're extending past there. So I'll correct that. You can hang on. You may have already known what my mistake is here. So I'll come back in here. Yeah, I can see where it is right here. I'm to that outside flange of the other thing. So I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to unlock this and pull that in until it touches there. And then do the same thing over here. And then we have that trimmed off on the bottom. And so that's an aesthetic decision. You could decide that if the tile, you know, that's all right to have that little thickness there, but that would be the kind of dialogue you'd be having in a real construction detail, how you were going to keep that tile in place and still have this piece of, and deal with this piece of thickness of that's happening at the bottom of the window. You could also decide that you were going to paint that little element to match the tile systems. So there's a whole host of ways you can try to solve that problem, but nonetheless, it is a problem. It needs to be resolved one way or another. So, so now we have a window system. We have a way of making different tile systems, and let's explore how we can kind of bring this together as a final kind of exploration of facades for rain screen systems, especially terracotta ones.